At the age of 5, Marlon Dean Dayes had a dream of becoming a pilot. By age 19, he realized that dream, becoming a private pilot, and at age 22, he became an airline pilot. Today, at 25, he's among Delta's youngest pilots. So, Marlon, why aviation in the first place?
Aviation for me in the first place, my dream started at 5 when I was on my first flight from Kingston to Miami with Air Jamaica. While boarding the flight, the pilots heard my excitement throughout the cabin and they invited me in the cockpit. And instantly this bond started where I saw all the buttons and all the switches and all the lights, and I just became so fascinated where instantly I knew this is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a pilot.
Well, that journey would take you from Portland as a youngster, just after passing your grade 6 achievement test, to Kingston at Wilma's Boys. What was that journey like?
It was a tough transition for me, being from the countryside with a single mom, in the big city trying to figure stuff out. Just, learning the bus system, learning where to go. I had to ask my friends a lot of times. They would tell me where to go and, how to do it. But it was tough, but it definitely made me stronger and prepared me for, traveling and not being afraid to explore new places. I've made some bonds and some friendships at Wilma's that I'll never ever forget, and I'll never ever lose it.
What happened after Wilma's?
After Wilma's, I migrated to the United States. I went to Florida, and I did one more year of high school there in Florida, and I got accepted into Florida Tech, and I did a degree in aviation management with flight. After about 2.5 years, Florida Tech actually employed me back as a flight instructor there while I was still finishing my degree, because I did fairly well in my flight training, so I got employed as a flight instructor.
The decision to go to an aviation school means that you'll have to get some deep pockets. How do you overcome that hurdle in the first place?
At my high school, we had this teacher that her primary job was getting scholarships for us. She told me about this scholarship that was only available for 4 people in the state of Florida. And of all the people that applied for it, I was one of the few that was selected. I received $10,000 per year towards my tuition. And then after that, I applied for financial aid. I got the Pell Grant. I also got Florida Bright Futures, which is an academic scholarship. And one day while in summer, over the break, when I was about 2/3 of the way there for the finances, I was walking on campus, and this random guy came up to me and was like, "What are you doing here? How is everything?" And I said, "Do you go to Florida Tech?" And that's what he said to me. And I said, "No, I wish. I wish I went to the school." And he's like, "What do you mean you wish?" I said, "Well, I can't afford it. I'm currently in the process of trying to find the finances for it." And he basically started talking to me, getting to know me, and he said, "Walk with him." And remarkably, he brought me to this office and he said, "Well, Florida Tech has this policy where if you visit, you get $1,000, I think it was, just to visit the school." So I said, "Oh, great." So he signed me up for it. After that, the next thing he said to me was, Florida Tech also gives a grant to Florida residents. So because you live right here in Florida, you will be qualified for a grant. So I think that was another like $1,500 or $1,000. He signed me up for that as well. And then the final thing he said to me was, Florida Tech also gives a grant if you know an alumni. And I said, well, none of my family has really been to college, and I'm the first person that's gonna go, at this level. And he said, well, you know me, so I'm an alumni, so I'll sign you up. Yeah. So I said, really? He's like, yeah, you know me, we've been talking for the last 30 minutes. We're now friends, and I'll sign you up for the alumni grant. And just like that, I left the school with $4,000 to $5,000 that day, additional to as my tuition. And then, the rest of it was through a payment plan that we did for the remainder of it. And the rest for flight training itself, I had to take student loans. I was employed back as an instructor there to teach people to fly while I was still finishing my degree on campus. Basically, it was 2 locations where it was the campuses that we did classes, and then we had what we call the flight line, which you went to the flight line to do your actual flight training. So I was a flight line employee out there as a flight instructor, where I taught guys how to do their private pilots as well. I taught a thing called instrument rating, which is basically teaching students to fly with just looking inside. That's how you'll navigate through clouds when you can't see. I also taught commercial applicants as well there, and I also taught other flight instructors to become flight instructors. So that's actually how I built my flight time towards the airline while I was teaching people.
So you've been an airline pilot for just about 3 years or so now. How has that been?
That's been exciting. It's definitely worth all the wait and all the anticipation and
all the money.
All the money, definitely all the money. So it's definitely worth it. I would say it's a really rewarding career, whereas you are able to fly with benefits as well. You are able to actually fly at the controls, and also while you're off duty, on your off days, you can go and what we call non-rev and fly and explore places on your own.
So what then would have been your best flight?
My best flight, I would say, was definitely in 2016. My mom was a passenger on my flight. So that was very exciting for me because my mother has always been my #1 supporter. And to have her in the back of the airplane as a passenger was just a feeling I can't describe. And at the end of it, I took a picture with her. I posted it online and it actually went viral. Thousands of people were just retweeting it. People was just like, wow, this is just such an amazing story. I'll never forget that day when I saw her boarded and she smiled, she looked up, she waved, and she's like, yeah, that's my son, you know, and it's just, I couldn't concentrate for about a good 5 to 10 more minutes, like just sit there, it's like, okay, what am I doing next? You know, like I'm in the plane like, okay, I should be checking the weather right now. Or,
But what then would be your most fearful flight?
Last time I'd say was flight training way back in about 2012 or so.
You speak a lot about your mother. What does she mean to you?
My mom is my everything for sure. She's, you know, as I said, she's been my #1 supporter. She's just one of the persons I can count on for anything. You know, if I call her, you know, she wants to know every single day. If I don't message my mom one day after work, I let her know that I'm good. You know, she wants to know where I am. She wants to know where my flight is. You know, and when I was off training to be a flight instructor, the kind of relationship me and my mom have, I used to have a whiteboard with my marker, and I sit my mom down and I'd teach her. I'd say, Mom, come let me teach you like a student. Because a student comes in just like my mom, doesn't know anything about aviation, and they want to learn. So I was like, what better way to do it, to test it out with, than try to teach somebody that has no knowledge of it, which is my mom. So a lot of times at the restaurant, we had this little back room that we would go and kind of rest off at. And that's where I had my board when I used to keep our company there. And I would just kind of started to write on the board and try to teach her about. So my mom actually knows a lot about aviation because I used to practice with her as a student.
What's your career goal?
My next goals would be to go on what's called a wide-body aircraft, and those aircraft are the types that fly to Europe and Asia, and you know, do what we call crossing the pond. Which
For us, it's those 3 rows.
Yes, exactly. That's a wide-body aircraft. So it has multi-aisles.
No, you fly one of the 2-aisle ones.
Yeah, it's just a single aisle, which is basically you have one space to walk through, and there's seats on your left, seats on your right.
But you're carrying up to 160 people now.
Yes, so it's exciting. It's still a fairly big jet I'm on, but it's, you know, I want to go bigger. I want to be at the top level, where I can say, okay, I've achieved everything I possibly can in this career, and you know, later on, I hope when I get enough experience as well, I can join the recruiting team. You know, it's something I did at my prior airline, and I really enjoyed it.
Have the opportunity yet to fly from the US to Jamaica?
No, I wish. I'm trying very hard to get a flight to Jamaica just to step out and just to brief my own people and just to say, you know, I flew to Jamaica. I think it's going to be a great experience. I'm really praying and hoping for the day, but I know it'll happen because we have so many departures and so many flights. I know one day I'll get assigned a flight here.
But even though you don't get the chance to fly to Jamaica, you are in Jamaica pretty often, and you go back home in Portland, where you're from, Buff Bay to be exact.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
I hear they call you the mayor down there.
The mayor. I wouldn't go that far, but you know, I am pretty well known there, and I would say my little town has really been rooting for me because they know where, you know, I'm coming from, the struggles, and they see how I've been progressing in the industry, the airline industry, and trying to just do my best. I try to come home as often as I can. You know, there was a period of time where I didn't come home for 5 years because, you know, I was in college trying to fund myself through school, and I just didn't have the finances. So right now, having flight benefits is one of the best blessings I could ever have, to be able to come home and see my uncle and my cousins and my aunt and my friends. You know, it's amazing.
Your final word to those little boys in Buff Bay, Portland, who will celebrate when you come home to them or to your community. What do you have to say to them?
Be determined, stay hungry, stay focused, and just try to do the best you can, because you never know what the world has in store for you. You know, even though I believed it and I tried, I just didn't expect to be where I am, especially so soon at this age. Like, it's just such a blessing, and I'm humbled by it. I'm grateful.
Marlon Dean Dayes, thank you so very much, and congratulations.
Thank you so
much.
much.
One of Delta's youngest pilots.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Thank you.